Chili recipes are a lot like fingerprints. They're never the same. I don't think I've ever come across somebody's chili recipe that I've thought, wow, that's my recipe. It might be similar, but it's never the exact. I feel like every individual or every family has their own chili recipe. I also don't think I've ever come across a chili that I don't like. I love chili, and today in Ohio, it is feeling like fall time for sure. This past weekend, it was 80s. It was beautiful. We had an amazing time with friends and family, neighbors we've not had a good chance to really talk to and meet, and everybody came to our house for a huge clam bake, and it was so fun. And although I think nearing the weekend it's supposed to warm back up again, so we're not quite out of the hot temperatures just yet, but today's cold. It did nothing but rain most of the day. It's gloomy, it's a little chilly. The temperature in my home, I had to turn it up a little bit. So we're gonna have chili. It is my favorite meal that I do not have until it gets cold out. There's a lot of people that I never realized was like this, but some people do not compartmentalize their meals based off of the temperature outside, the season of the year. I don't know. It's probably just the way I grew up, because I can tell you my mom was not making chili in July. She was making chili in October and December. So I just have always associated it with the cooler temperatures. It's when I enjoy it the absolute most. Now, as an adult controlling my own menu plan, there are times where I've actually picked up a jar of my home canned chili any time of the year, and I've taken it to work and have eaten it for lunchtime. So I don't necessarily fall into that category, except for when I'm making a pot of it on the stove. You won't see me doing it but between the months of September if it's cold enough, and then my last time I make is probably March, I would imagine. So here in Ohio, it's the better part of the whole year, it feels like. So also, have you ever decided last minute what you were gonna do for dinner and realized you had nothing thawed? Yep, me. I've been really bad about making menu plans recently. A lot of things to plan, a lot of things going on. So I'm gonna get back to it here shortly. But I did have to make a last minute meal plan today because my husband has a dinner date with his daughter. My nephew is gonna be gone all evening, and he'll be eating. He might have a sandwich or something when he gets home, but for the most part, he's gonna be fed. And then I thought I'd just be by myself and I would just open up a jar or something. But my daughter says, hey, I'm gonna be home tonight. And I thought, oh, okay, let's make dinner. And I really had a taste for chili. So I asked her, does chili sound good? And she loves chili too. And she goes, oh yeah. Well, I pulled out a frozen brick of ground beef, 1.98 ounces, and it's frozen. So the way I take care of this is by adding water to the bottom of the pot. You don't need a whole lot. You know, what you're doing is you want to keep your meat pretty much from sticking to the bottom of your pan, scorching, and then the water is distributed around the meat, helping it to cook a little bit more evenly. I'm surprised by how many people don't actually know that tip and that trick. And so if you are one who did not know that and you're thinking, well, everything's frozen, there's nothing I can do for dinner, let's call for a pizza, put the phone down. grab you a frozen block of hamburger meat, and you can do something with it. And it doesn't take all that much extra time. It is a little bit more time, of course, but I have my water at the bottom. I'm gonna get this into the pot, and then I will put the lid on, and I will check on it in about, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 minutes or so. And little by little, it'll start to heat through, and I can start breaking it apart. Now, yes, I could use my home canned meat for this if I really had to, absolutely. I will say for my chili though, I prefer having like larger chunks of meat. My home canned meat ends up getting real small. So I like having that good bite of meat in my chili. If I had to, I will. And I have other preferences to use my canned meat for, so this won't take me but any time. It's pretty early still anyhow for dinner. I don't know if you can see, but my light is blinking over here on my stove. We must have lost electricity today because everything is flashing on me. So it's only about 10 minutes to 6. So this will come together, and we will probably be sitting with our bowl of chili somewhere between 6:30 and 7. We try and have dinner pretty much around 6:30, but until the real winter days really set in, we're kind of enjoying as much of the longer days as we have possible. And so we've not really been eating dinner until closer to 7 lately, or even later. But now that everything is done, clam bake and all of that, we can start getting back to our normal daily, day-to-day tasks and living, right? Okay, so while this goes, I'm gonna put the lid on here. I have it on like a medium high. Let's go over the list of ingredients. So this recipe I adapted from my mom's recipe. And when I was with my ex, my daughter's father, he said to me one day, he goes, you know, this is really good, but do you think maybe you could do do? And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds good. I'm happy to change it up a little bit. And I've been doing it that way ever since. Now my chili is one of the few items that I do tend to make the same way every time. There's a lot of things that I can whip together that sometimes is never the same twice. My Chinese meals tend to be that way because I'm just not a recipe follower really. But my chili tends to be pretty basic and doesn't tend to alter too much unless I'm trying somebody else's chili recipe, of course. So, and I know there's so many different ways to make a chili. And I'm here to tell you, I think mine is the basic of basics. I'm gonna warn you up front, it is pretty basic, but I love it. I love it. So, we've got ground beef here in the pot. I have 2 pounds. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have any sort of a ratio that I'm aiming for, so it's just, that's the package size I have in my freezers. I'm not going to cook it and reserve a pound for something different. It's just going to be a very meaty chili, and I kind of like it that way. But if you had to, of course, just, you know, downsize the ratio a little bit. But I've got, or if I have a whole family to cook for, I sometimes do 4 to 6 pounds, so it just depends. But I've got 2 pounds of ground meat in there. Once it starts to crumble and I can start working with it, I'm going to add the infamous diced onions, my first bag that I get to use. So they're already starting to, you know, break apart a little bit, which they don't have to, you know, they'll cook anyway. So I'm going to add a bag of that. I might get 2. I'll see how everything looks. And then I am going to have to get angry and figure out who made me mad most recently and just picture me beating them. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. just kidding. So this pepper blend from my garden, I diced up some pretty favorable sized peppers from my garden and froze them. But with all the little guys that just wanted to grow up to be big peppers and didn't succeed, I blended all of those in my food processor, and they are just teeny, teeny, teeny tinies. And so I'm going to just break off a good chunk of this, put it in here, because for my, I'm sorry, not my pepper, for my chili, I don't care about having big, sizable pieces of pepper. It's not what I want, the flavor, but I don't care if I know that I'm eating that. And so this is one of the reasons why I chose to do this, because the thought of sitting there, well, I was standing doing all of the peppers actually, standing there and like working with these little tiny, all different variety of peppers and trying to get the seeds out, and just, I thought, oh, I'll never make it through this day. And so I'm like, well, this is what I'll do, because I will just, like I said, beat it on the counter once it starts to thaw just a little bit and pop it into all sorts of dishes for that flavor. It's from my garden, so I love that. And then I have my crushed tomatoes, one of the few jars I have left from the prior seasons, and I'm going to start with 2 of these because I just look at it. I probably could write down, and I'll put something down in the description box for you if you really want an actual recipe. I'll kind of tell you what it is I did here. But I feel like it changes every time. Sometimes I need less of something and I need more of something. I don't know what changes from time to time, but it's never the same each time. It just keeps falling. Okay. Kidney beans. I don't have any of my home canned kidney beans, but I've got a couple of these cans on my shelf, so I'm just going to use them. I'm starting off with 3 kidney beans, and I don't judge. I use the light, the dark, doesn't matter. They're all the same to me. So I'm using a variety of kidney beans. That's the only bean I put in my chili, except for I will put a can of these chili beans just because I have it. Don't know why I have it. I do not usually put this in my chili, but it won't hurt anything, so I'm going to put that in there. Why not? Then I'm going to put tomato sauce, because that's what helps make it creamy for me. I like a thick, creamy chili. So I'll use 2 cans of that, and then I'm going to make a last minute determination if I want to do any diced. I don't know yet. That changes, I think, from mood to mood. And then beef broth. If I need it to thicken it up, I will also put in some tomato paste, which I probably won't use tomato paste. I might use my tomato powder. We'll see. If I have any tomato paste in the fridge or freezer that needs to be used up, I will. If not, I'm not going to open anything for this. I will use my tomato powder, which essentially acts as a tomato paste. I do drain and rinse my beans. That's optional. Okay, and in my onions will go. So those can cook along with the rest of the beef. Has a little bit more left to cook, but it's almost there. A little bit of the peppers. I'm gonna get another bag of onions. Now, I don't have any onions on hand, otherwise I wouldn't resort to these because I've got time to cook dinner tonight. You know, we're not really in a hurry But I don't have any, so I get to use these. And it's that easy. Has anyone been to a chili, what do you call it? A chili bake off? Is there a name for something like that? I feel like there is. There's the rib thing that they do, and everyone comes and brings their rib, which that's another one. I don't know that any two people make ribs the same way. I do not have a super incredible rib recipe yet, so I'm still searching for the one that's just like, this is it. But I think it would be fun. Maybe we should do this for our next gathering on like a more mild fall day where it's not super cold and you hate yourself because you're standing outside, but it's not obviously hot. Everybody comes and brings a small pot of chili, and then you can go and like taste test all of them. Sign me up. That sounds amazing. 100% interested in doing that. Serve cornbread on the side, crackers, cheese, diced onions. I'll bring some candied jalapenos, and oh, it'll be so good. There's the Tex-Mex chili, Texas chili, Southern chili, I think has like actual, I don't think they use stew meat. I don't know what cut of meat they use. And there's no beans. I don't know how I feel about that, but I'll try it. I've never had it. My chili has to have beans. Okay, so I have two choices. I can let this continue to cook because there is some moisture that was released from the onions and the peppers. But to me, that's just flavor. So I'm not gonna strain it off. I had already strained it. Most of the oil went with it, of course, the water. So we're gonna start adding everything in. I'm going to do my can of chili beans, which I did not drain because it's got a ton of flavor. And what else is in here? Besides your flavorings, is there... What am I thinking? It's a chili sauce, so is it not a tomato sauce? Chili powder, chili pepper, cumin, salt, garlic powder, oregano, oh, tomato paste, yeah. So that will go in there just the way it is. Pretty sure it was just this one can. I don't know, I don't cook with this. I don't know why I have it. My crushed tomatoes, kidney beans, tomato sauce, I'm gonna do the second tomato sauce. Okay, now I'm gonna add my beef broth. I don't know if I'm gonna do all of this. Start with about half. I'll put the rest in the fridge for something else later this week. I think I want to add more beans. Okay. That was my last can up here. I don't know if I have any in my downstairs overflow or not, so I really have to get to canning kidney beans like soon. Okay, now can I make my own chili seasoning. Yes, of course. Can you do that? Yes, of course. Do I do that? No, I do not. You know how sometimes you're like, you know, I could make this homemade and it's the same exact thing, but your kid is like, no, it's not. It doesn't taste the same. I want a certain brand of ketchup, ranch dressing, you name it. I have tried making my chili in many ways, and it's good. It's always edible. Yes, it is always good. If in the event I started making this and then realized I didn't have my chili seasoning, I would make my own. I would be happy. I would eat it, but it just wouldn't have like that same, you know, flavor that kind of brings me back to being a kid. So McCormick it is. They just do such a good job. I really do love McCormick seasoning. I know it's filled with things that maybe aren't the best for us, but the ingredient list, I don't know if that's coming up or not. I mean, it's not, camera always turns off on me. I don't know how to fix that. So it's not terrible, the ingredients. I think there's a few in there that people probably would otherwise not have. But I make so many other things homemade from scratch that I am willing, and I am okay with this, to use a packet. I also like, I don't never know if this is Kinders. Saying it out loud, I almost feel like it's probably Kinders, huh? I don't know. I've got one of this package left, which is really good. This is wood-fired chili. So I'm gonna do one of each. I have 2 pounds of meat, a ton of other stuff in here, so 2 seasoning packets I think is what needs to be done. It smells so good. You of course use it however many, you know, according to how much chili you're making or how much flavor you and your family enjoy. This packet has us cooking 1 pound of meat, so pretty much doubled everything, I'm sure of it. So 2 packages. I won't add any salt or pepper until it simmers for a little while and I give it a good taste. And I won't know if I'm going to need to thicken it up for a little bit still. I'm gonna let it simmer for a little bit. It's just now 6:30. Let it simmer on low. And then we'll see what it needs. I do want it thicker, so I have this tomato powder from Azure Standard. It's a lot. My only regret with purchasing this is it came in a brown bag. It was lined and it was already pretty much clumped together because dehydrated or freeze-dried anything, when it meets moisture, it's going to clump together when it's a powder. And I put it in here and I didn't put like an oxygen absorber or anything like that, so I kind of really have to like dig in here to scoop out, but you know, it works the same. It's okay. I make it work.